Welcome everyone to this next Lucro Masterclass, Structure, the Secret to Scaling. This is a concept I didn't learn in chiropractic school. This is a concept I didn't even learn early on in my first couple of years in practice. It wasn't until after my second year in practice and we did over $2 million, I decided I want to keep growing. I don't want to hit a bottleneck. I need to find clinics and chiropractors and doctors around the country that are at the next level, that have hit $5 million in one clinic, that have hit $10 million. Those were my goals. And so I need to go find those doctors, ask them questions on how to get to the next level. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any. I found, a couple franchises, I found multiple locations, but I couldn't find anybody that wanted to achieve what I wanted to and scale my singular location to $10 million a year. And so I decided I have to look outside of our profession. This isn't commonplace in our profession, obviously, to get to the next level is what I realized. And so I need to understand, what do other industries outside the profession know that we don't know? What is the secret to getting to the next level, to blowing through bottlenecks, to growing businesses rather than just having jobs or having small companies that close the doors when you retire? How do you get to that next level? What is the secret? And that's when I discovered structure. And that's truly what I believe is this number one key to scaling. And the missing piece in the chiropractic profession is structure. And I understood this framework of how they continually evaluate what's working, what's not working, how to continually grow and scale. You guys have all heard of the technology companies that just overnight that are created and seemingly become billion-dollar companies overnight. I thought, what do they know that I don't know? And so implementing structure in my clinic, the next year we went from $2 million to $5.5 million in our single location, 1,800 square feet in Iowa. And so what I'm going to do in this masterclass is walk through the framework that I implemented to scale to the next level, not only my clinic, but many areas of my life. The power of structure is massive, and I've employed it in all different businesses, opportunities, and things throughout my entire life. And so I just want you guys to have the possibility, open your minds of what is possible within the chiropractic profession. If you've heard about my story, I grew up low income, collected pop cans out of my neighbor's trash. I started working when I was in third grade. Woke up at 2:30 a.m. to help deliver newspapers. Nicest car my family had growing up cost $500. Slept on an air mattress. I was never handed anything. I didn't get anything. I didn't inherit anything. Everything that I have now from an asset standpoint or monetary standpoint has all been because of chiropractic. We have the greatest healthcare product in the world. Jesus and chiropractors, those are the people that are most commonly called miracle workers. So why don't we have a greater impact? Fundamentally, we don't know how to run businesses, and it starts with understanding your financial foundation with Lucro, and then the structure of scaling it, and what I'm talking about today. So these are just some of the properties that we have in Florida, Colorado, commercial properties, 4,000 head cattle feedlot, and this is the latest one that we have in West Des Moines, Iowa. Biggest building in my city, 420,000 square feet. It's named the Atlas Building. And so I just want to open your guys' eyes of what's possible within our own profession, what can be achieved if you understand your financial data with Lucro and the power of structure with scaling your business. I equate it like you're building a house. You need to have a solid foundation. You pour the concrete, that's your foundation. That's what Lucro does. Financial data, profit, revenue, marketing, payroll, all these major operational expenses, revenue and profits. That's the foundational data that you have to understand first and foremost. Then you want to scale the framework. The framing of the house is that wooden frame that goes up, or some houses metal frames. That's structure within a business. Once you have those two things done, then all the other small details can happen. You could build multiple stories. You can put in the drywall. You can pick out the paint finishings. You can pick out the trims. You can pick out all those other little details, but you have to have the financial foundation of your P&L and your monthly financial data, and then you have to have the structure of the framework of scaling. And that's what structure is, because this is what I realized in my clinic. Read through this list. If you're the chiropractor and you're the owner, you're the CEO, how many of these things are you responsible for? At the end of the day, who's making sure team meetings happening, who's making sure clinical care is happening, who's making sure reported findings are happening, who's setting up bank accounts, who's setting prices, who's responding to emails, who's making sure the phone vendor gets paid, who's managing all the other vendors that you use within your organization, who's making sure cleaning happens, that there's a good company culture within your organization, that marketing is occurring, that team members are advancing, that hiring is occurring, that firing is occurring, that training, sales, operations, payroll, security, technology, partnerships, compliance, right? There's 1,000 things that you need to do to run a successful business. But if you're doing too many of them, you're wearing too many hats, you're not going to do any of them very well. You're not going to be in your sweet spot. And not only for your own business, but for your whole life, right? Because not only do you want to have a great business, but what's even more important than that? Being a great husband or a great wife or a great spouse or a great mother or daughter or friend, or your faith, being a disciple of Christ, or eating healthy, having great relationships with your family or your friends or your neighbors, right? All of these things are even more important than your business. But when you so focus on juggling so many hats, oftentimes our family, our friends, our faith, our fitness can all take a back seat. And that's not the life that I wanted to live. So I wanted to understand how to do this properly so I can have 360 degrees success in all areas of my life. And so structure has really been the cornerstone of that. I realized that I was the problem. There was things that I wasn't good at that I was doing. There was things that I didn't like to do that I was doing. There was things that I was doing too much of. There was things that other people should have been doing instead of me. If you're a doctor, then you need to realize what can only a doctor and the CEO of a business do. And if someone that's not a doctor and not the CEO of a business can do it, then they should be doing it. You need to be able to understand the process that to go through to do that. And so this is the sheet I talk about on a regular basis that doctors need to fill out, I say at least monthly. Fill out this sheet. Everything that you do every single month, put into this sheet. Whether you do it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, put it in this sheet. And it should be one of these 4 quadrants. Top left quadrant, you love to do it and you're great at it. Bottom right quadrant, you don't like to do it and you're not good at. And then you have the middle two quadrants. And you need to go from that bottom right corner and you need to figure out who do you already have on your team that can accomplish these tasks and free up your capacity so that you can be the CEO, so that you can be the doctor and you can do a high level task. And then you need to continually reevaluate your processes. Like I said, you need to go through this list. Everything on this list should be in one of those 4 quadrants. Okay, if you have any involvement in it, maybe you've already handed off a few of these things, but most doctors I talk to, a majority, 80, 90% of these things fall back to them. Even if someone else is maybe doing it, you might still be responsible for the outcome, right? So maybe someone else is answering the phones, but whether they do a good job or not doesn't impact them. Right? What we're talking about is true accountability and responsibility. If someone doesn't do that job, they're the one that has to solve the problem. They're the one that has to figure out how do we make this better. They're the one that is positively or adversely impacted by the results of these different areas. That's true transition of accountability and responsibility in all these different areas of your clinic. One of the biggest things that I talk about with structure from a very basic standpoint to be able to have great structure is you have to have documentation of your SOPs and they have to continually be updated. If you're like me, you always want to get better, you always want to improve, you always want to advance to the next level. So you're making little tweaks here and there. And so you can't make a document one time and then just use it forever. You need to have a process to continually update these documents of what is your day 1 process, what is your day 2 process, what does your table talk look like, what is your adjusting technique flow, how do you answer a phone, how do you and submit paperwork. All these different processes in your office need to be documented. There's all different learning management systems or LMS. Google Classroom is one of the ones we use at Lucro. Trainual is a common one, but you need to have a process to document your SOPs so that you can hand them off to the next person. Because you need to have systems in place that show, hey, we're getting off, we're 5 degrees off from where we should be in this part of our organization so you can get back on track. Think about if you put GPS in your phone to go anywhere, you take one wrong turn and it's automatically recorrecting you, getting you back on track as soon as possible so you can get to your destination as efficiently and as fast as possible. And so your business needs to operate in the same manner. Wherever you are to wherever you want to be, we need to have a structural framework and a game plan to get there. We need to know the blueprint, the roadmap, and we need to know what the next turn always is. Now, sometimes when you're going along the path, there could be obstacles, there could be traffic, there could be things that you have to adjust course along the way to get a faster way to get there. And so structure is going to give you the framework, okay, and the rhythms for when to know, when to pivot, when to change, and have different focus based on what's most important. And so this is the overall framework I'm going to talk about today for structure. Daily stand-up, weekly meetings, quarterly reviews, and annual planning sessions to continuously have this framework of structure of constant, continual improvement and growth. If you want to blow through bottlenecks, if you don't want to have plateaus, then you need to establish structure in your business, and it starts all with these rhythms for feedback of what's working and what's not working. So let's start with the daily rhythms. What we do in our office is we have a daily stand-up or huddle before every single shift. 10 minutes before the shift, all of our team comes together, and that's how we all get on the same page. We start by sharing our positives for the day. Oh, it's a team member positive or a practice member positive, someone who got amazing results, or a team member maybe who went above and beyond and delivered incredible care, with collaboration with another team member or to a potential practice member. We go through KPIs for the previous day. What's going well? What's not going well? What are the top opportunities that we need to be on the same page with? Someone's coming in with a birthday. Someone's coming in and they have paperwork that hasn't been filled out. Other person needs to be given x-rays. Another person forgot their scarf on the last visit. Another person, needs a little extra love, and we need to make sure that we deliver that to that person. Another person wanted to give us a video testimonial when they come in. Everybody getting on the same page with all those special coded appointments so that everyone knows what happens when the person comes in. Everybody's going to get in alignment. The analogy I love to use, it's like a swan. If you see a swan on a lake, it's just graceful. It looks like it's almost floating across the water, and it's a beautiful sight to see. But if you can take that camera and go underneath, sub the water surface, you're going to see that those paddles are just going crazy. It looks like chaos, and that's really what your organization should be. From the outside, from the patient or practice member's perspective, it's a beautiful art flow, amazing, wow, look how amazing this is. But your team members are doing all the little things, preparing, and prepping so that that experience is absolutely incredible for that person, and they don't see all these little behind the scene details that go in to create such a graceful flow and experience. After we get aligned on all those things, maybe we have a promotion that we're doing. We're trying to get in-office Google reviews, or we're trying to do a fundraiser or a drive, or we're trying to get testimonials, or there's different things that we have, internal marketing strategies or team goals that we're trying to accomplish, right? And then we talk about something positive, maybe something motivational, sometimes share a 30-second clip or a quote to get everyone excited and pumped up for the day. Then we do a team prayer. And then we break it down sports team style on a specific word, that we want to get online with. And that's it. Then that's typically 30 seconds before the doors are going to be open. Open the doors. Everyone's full of energy. They're excited. We're on the same page. We're ready to rock, and we're ready to have a great shift. And so we do these before. Anytime we close, we always do this before we reopen for any shift to get on the same exact page. Now we're rolling into our weekly rhythms and meetings. If you're going to implement anything from this talk, I would say implement a weekly meeting if you don't already have one. This is a 60 to 90 minute same page meeting where you get everybody within your organization on the same page. You're going to go over those key KPIs, key performance indicators, in a deeper level. What's going well? What are the show-up rates? What are the sign-up rates? How many Google reviews? How many referrals? How many people have dropped out? Depending on the size of your team, you might share all the information with a smaller team. With a larger organization, you might have more subsects where you have maybe an executive leader team, or you have sales departments or marketing departments. But either way, depending on the department or the size of your team, you're going through these main KPIs. You're drilling down. You're saying, okay, what are some issues that we need to identify? Do we need to discuss what's going on with them, and then do we need to solve any of those issues immediately in the meeting, or do we need to schedule a longer time block to go through a specific scenario to dig in deeper and figure out, okay, how do we improve on this topic? Also, on Tuesdays is when we do all of our meetings. We close our entire clinic down from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is imperative so that our team has focus and that this is a recurring meeting. This isn't something that you squeeze in over lunch. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. It's not something that you feel about one day or the next day you say, oh, we don't really have anything to talk about. Let's just skip it. This needs to be consistent, a recurring part of your continual success. It needs to be part of your daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly habits, all of these rhythms, so that you can continue to grow and scale and stay on top of your issues so your business can run without you. Because that's the biggest thing that I learned early on. Very thankful that someone told me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Great book about financial mindset, but my actual favorite book he wrote is called Cash Flow Quadrant. That's his second book. And in that book, he says, if you can't leave your business for 6 months and it doesn't grow and get better without you, you don't have a business. You are an employee. Okay, you have a job. And so most people would say, absolutely not. There's no way I could leave my business for 1 week, let alone 6 months, and it get better. It's going to crash and burn, right? And so you need to establish rhythms and structures so that things can grow and scale with or without you there. Big part of that is we have one-on-one meetings with our team members. They report to their department head and they connect individually. What are your personal, professional, and financial goals? How are you hitting your individual KPIs? How are you aligning up with the core values? And how can we help you accomplish your individual goals through the organization and help you scale as an individual, personally, professionally, and financially by helping our organization reach our goals as well. Then from there, we jump into our team training. This is the longest part of our weekly rhythm, anywhere typically from 3 to 4 hours. We train every single Tuesday on specific topics that are the most relevant, that are going to have the biggest impact. We have a regular training calendar, but we also alter those as needed. If we need to focus more on day ones, we need to focus better more on phone calls. Doctors need to focus more on adjusting and getting on the same page, taking x-rays, analyzing x-rays, all these different components of being successful. We need to continually train and improve and get better and fill gaps and continually evaluate what's working, what's not working, and lay out a game plan to improve. Now, in between weekly and quarterly is also monthly, but monthly is just the same as weekly. It's just you're evaluating a longer time frame. So when you do your monthly your weekly meeting, that's the first meeting of every month, you're just going to evaluate the entire month. So you're just looking at the stats for an entire month, not just a singular week. And then really that just expands when you get to the quarterly, is now you're looking at all the KPIs and the data, the information, performance of everybody over an entire quarter. But on a quarterly basis, we go a little bit deeper into the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, or SWOT, of each part of our business. Again, if you're a smaller organization, you might just be looking at the company as a whole. But as you continue to grow and scale, you might want to break the organization into what are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges for marketing, for sales, for clinical care, for billing, for back office, for front desk, all the different components of your practice. That way you can identify what is the number one areas that need to be focused on in the next quarter. What are the big projects that aren't going to just happen in a singular meeting that we need to evaluate and plan? There's multiple steps to grow and scale and get to that next level. You need to be able to evaluate those, because that's really the overarching goal of a CEO, is to continuously and constantly evaluate what is that number one thing that takes the least amount of work that's going to have the greatest impact on the business. When I started studying other business, that's what I realized, is they ruthlessly identify that number one thing that's going to have the greatest impact, that's going to take the least amount of work, and they 100% focus on that one thing. Not until that one thing is done, then do they reevaluate and say, okay, what's next? And they do this in fast cycles. If you can do this on a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly basis, you're going to have multiple times where you're reevaluating what's working, what's not working, so that you're never going to get more than 5 degrees off, because you don't want to continue going down a path that all of a sudden doesn't work out, and by the time you realize it, you're way off track and you have to have huge amounts of correction. You want to find those corrections as fast as possible. Just like your GPS, one slight wrong turn and it's going to correct you. You want to have rhythms and feedback loops so that you can always be continually marching toward your goal. Big thing about quarterly rhythms, as well as performance reviews of your team members. You need to make sure that they're aligning with your core values, as well as they're objectively hitting their KPIs, primary skill and purpose of their role. If you don't have core values, you have to establish them within your organization. That's how you know you have the right people within your organization. Then the right seat for them within your organization is based on their skills and ability to hit performance metrics. But first and foremost, they need to have alignment. And core values aren't just something that you talk about once, put on a wall. Okay, that is how you generate feedback in your organization is through your core values. Rather than me coming to an individual and say, hey, you messed up, you did this wrong, you need to do this better, you can totally flip the script and rely on your core values and say, hey, Jennifer, can you please explain to me, this circumstance and how it aligns with our core value of communication? Hey, John, this is what I heard what happened. Can you please help me understand how that lines up with our core value of excellence? Hey, Alicia, can you help explain, understand, what you're doing to take initiative on this activity? And so holding people accountable to the core values, or letting the core values hold them accountable themselves. That's the premise of structure, is that you have core values, you have KPIs that are thus holding people accountable. And you say, hey, you are responsible for this activity. These are our core values that you need to do the activity within, the framework of what you need to operate. And this is the performance metrics that I want you to hit. And here's your documented SOPs, of how to do it. So if you have documented SOPs, you have the KPIs, and you have the core values. Again, that is the structural framework around someone being able to do their job with or without you, all right? And then they can say, hey, I want to keep improving. I'm going to get commission, or I'm going to get bonuses, or I'm going to get a higher raise if I hit my performance reviews. So then they're going to start to figure out, okay, this is my number, how do I get better? This is the SOPs. I'm going to follow the SOPs like they're supposed to be followed, okay? And I'm going to do that with consistency. I'm going to keep training on it. And then they might start to think, oh, I can make this, maybe I can make this a minor tweak here, minor tweak here. And then they bring that up in their one-on-one, or they bring that up in their weekly meeting, and they say, hey, this has been going really good. I have 80% on this. I think I can maybe get it improved if I could, do this. Hey, what do you think about this? And that's where you get team members dynamically involved in the growth and scaling of your practice. They're not just robots doing, what they're told, but they actually understand the why behind what they're doing, and they're proactively trying to solve and grow the organization. Now, dailies, weeklies, monthly, quarterlies, all roll up in an annual rhythm. Annual, again, is just like an expanded quarterly. It's typically done over 2 days, and you're just going to go deeper in the bigger picture items. You're going to really evaluate your core values. Are these still our core values? Are we living these core values? Do we need to change our core values? Do we need to add core values, take away core values? What is our vision for the next year, the next 3 years, the next 10 years, okay? Overall evaluation of what's working, what's not, and just bigger pictures, just longer time horizon. You're looking at the whole year. You're comparing this last year to the year before, to what you want to do the year ahead. And so just zooming out a little bit more and evaluating what went well, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, and really identifying the priorities of how to rhythmically move forward into the next year. Okay, so all of this combined, what it really is a success formula. And what I feel structure is that's exactly this. Correct actions taken consistently are going to equal success. And if you have the consistent actions of daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly meetings and reviews, one-on-ones, and training schedules, you're going to be able to have the process to identify what the correct actions are. Then you consistently take action on those actions, with consistency as well, and then it's just this flywheel of success, okay? And so if you haven't already scheduled out when your meetings are, where they're happening, who's going to be involved, what's occurring, and the goal of those meetings, take a picture, take a screenshot of this. That needs to be priority action item as soon as you're done watching this, or even pause it right now. But you have to have a rhythm of when all these meetings occur, who needs to be involved with them, what KPIs you're going to go over, where they're going to occur, when they're going to occur, what the goal of the meetings are, so that you can have this consistent framework of success. Again, financial framework of Lucro based on your monthly and financial data. That's the concrete of your building, the frames of the building. This is the structure that we're walking through, okay? But this is what I just alluded to, is the flywheel of success. Okay, you have weekly meeting is really the crutch, the kind of the main key pivotal meeting, okay, that's just reoccurring 52 times a year. You're having the 60 to 90 minute meeting where you're identifying the top priorities within the organization, the top things that are going to move the needle. Again, we talked about there's 1,000 things you could do. There's 50 things that might move the needle 10% combined, but there might be one thing that moves the needle 50% on its own, or 200%. So the whole premise is to identify that top thing, then come up with a game plan. How are we going to implement that number one thing, Okay, do we need to schedule additional time, meeting, game plan to take action on that? Do we need to talk to any outside vendors? Do we need to hire anybody? What's the next steps? And then taking that action. And then once you take that action, then you go back to your meeting and you evaluate, okay, did it work? Did the KPIs change? Did we get objective improvements? Did it increase revenue? Did it increase profitability? Whatever the main KPI is with that action being measured. And then you say, okay, hey, that one's good. Let's just document SOPs reoccurring, or hey, let's continue make a few tweaks on that. Maybe we need to do a little bit deeper on that, or maybe there's a next priority. But the biggest failure I see so many people is saying, annual meeting. These are the 10 things we need to do this year. This is the first one, this is the second, and this is 10. And they just systematically march through that. That is not the best way to operate. You need to identify maybe the top 3 things. But after you do the first one, you need to reevaluate. Is number 2 still number 2? Because what you thought was number 14 might now be number 2, and what was number 2 might now be number 22. And so by continually evaluating and having these rhythms in place, you're going to always stay ahead of it, those bottlenecks, those plateaus, and continually grow and scale and get to the next level. So this is one of my favorite concepts, is that you're just trying to get better, 1% better every single day. You're trying to continually identify what is that top thing that you need to be focused on every single day. Again, this is the goal of the CEO. If you're a doctor, you're the CEO, you're the owner of this organization, you need to be constantly focused. This is your number one goal. Everyone else has other KPIs and processes and projects and stuff like that, but you're at a higher level and you're helping everyone understand their roles, how they fit in, to figure out that top thing to do that's going to grow and scale and get your business to the next level. Because like I talked about earlier, this is really the true secret that we need to figure out in our chiropractic profession. If we want to grow and scale, we're great doctors. We have the greatest healthcare product in the world, bar none. But what we need to do is we need to have better rhythms and structure for success to give and deliver that life-saving, life-changing care into our community. And by establishing better structure in your community, I know that's going to be a huge part of it. Hopefully this provided tons and tons of value for you today. If you're not already a client of Lucro, I would highly recommend booking a strategy call with me or one of my team members so we can dive in and lay that financial foundation for your clinic. That is really the hallmark of growth in any main business, right? They're evaluating their revenue, their profitability, and that's the big problem with most bookkeeping companies. I had the same issue when I first started, is they're only valuable the one day a year you file taxes. And so we evaluated hundreds of clinics and we found that not a single clinic that we talked to actually knew their real data. They only knew their numbers to file taxes. They didn't know their actual financial data to make strategic financial business decisions to grow and scale their business. So this is what I found out for myself of how to grow and scale. To my clinic did just under $7 million last year in one location. And then I layered structure on it. And that's really how we have gone to the next level. So thanks again for listening. Hopefully that provided incredible value for you. And we have an entire vault of masterclasses with other resources for you to take advantage of. We want to uplift and advance the chiropractic profession. Thanks for tuning in.